Alright, welcome guys and gals to Frickin' Laser Designs and Tutorials. My name is Jonathan Vincent, and today we're going to take a look at how to make a Christmas ornament. It's that time of season, and if you're like me, you're trying to figure out what to make for friends and family, especially something that's special. Well, an ornament fits the bill, and it's not too difficult to make one. So let's do it. The first thing we want to do is open up Illustrator, go to File, New from Template, and pick your Glowforge template. Now if you don't have a Glowforge template, you'll want to go ahead and look at one of my other videos and download it there, or you can simply just look at the description of this YouTube video and download it here, okay? Or if you're looking on Facebook, look in the description. It's all going to be there, okay? So you can download the template file. In any case, let's get to it. So the first thing we want to do is talk about what kind of ornaments do we want to make, what shapes, etc. Standard ornament fare is probably either a circle or a square, so that's where we're gonna start out. So let's go over here to our ellipse tool and click on the workspace. Now we want this, at least for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to do it at 4 inches. You can always downsize it in the Glowforge interface. So let's go to type in 4 inch. Okay, so now we have the base of our first ornament shape, a circle. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is go to the ellipse again, and this time we're going to make one that's 1 inch. Alright, now let's go ahead and grab this big one. Now, snap to grid is on, so I'm going to make it where it kind of snaps right here on this vertical line, so I have something to align to. We'll bring this one over, this little small one, and that looks good. Now at this point, you can make this a little more decorative if you want. If we want to put like a little line on the inside, what you could do is go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and let's do negative 0.125. That will bring a small circle on the inside, and then if you wanted to, you could then grab that circle and do the same thing again. Path, offset path, same setting of negative 0.125. Okay, so now let's grab these two circles and give them a different color. Let's say blue. So now in the Glowforge interface, the red will be cut out and the blue will be inscribed or scored. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so right now we have 2 red lines, 2 red circles, and obviously we don't want this small one cut out of this larger one, so what we're going to do is highlight the large circle, highlight the small circle. We'll go over here to our pathfinder and we will unite these. Okay, actually I just did something wrong, so let's go ahead and undo the add. We don't want to do that yet. What we want to do is to get this small circle, and we want to again go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and we'll want to bring it down, let's say negative 0.25, and make a smaller circle within it. Okay, now we want to grab this larger circle and the larger of the smaller circle, so that would be the 1 inch circle. Looks like I'm having trouble here selecting 2 at one time. There we go. Go to Pathfinder, Unite. So now at this point, as you can see, we have a nice little ornament. The red will be cut out, the small red circle, so we can then put our string or twine, and then the blue lines will get inscribed. Okay, so that works as at least one ornament here. Alright, so let's go to our layers and let's rename this ornament number 1. Okay, and we'll go ahead and lock it. Now let's make a new layer and let's focus on ornament number 2. And we'll do the same thing that we did before. And actually, just to save time, if we're going to go ahead and make it similar, let's unlock this. We'll delete that top layer and let's just reduplicate this. Okay, and we'll lock our bottom layer and make our top layer active. Let's grab it, bring it all over to here. Okay. This time what we want to do is let's say we want to, let's get rid of this outer blue ring. Okay, so we just have this inner one. And now let's go ahead and select that and let's expand the stroke. Okay. Now go to Object, Expand, and let's go to the fill and give it a black color. Now what we could do in the Glowforge interface is now have this to engrave. So now we have a nice inner, thick, engraved inner border. That'll be pretty nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and lock that. And let's create one more ornament here. This one we'll make a square one. So we'll do it as 1, 2, 3. Let's do a 4 by 4. Okay. Alright, so there's our 4 by 4. We'll, let's get rid of that and give it an outline of red. Okay. And again, the same thing. We'll go to our rectangle tool here, make an ellipse tool. We'll make it 1 inch. Let's make sure we line this up. There we go. Bring it in. And then we'll go to Object Path, Offset Path, and again the -0.25. And if we want something here, of course, we can always go to Path, Offset Path again, and do we'll just do 0.25, why not? Actually, let's do this, just for, again, to make it a little different. Let's, this time let's go ahead and use the Pathfinder and merge these together. We'll unite them. Okay, now at this point, we'll go to Object Path, Offset Path, -0.25. Now that didn't look good. Let's do Object Path, Offset Path, -0.125. Okay, now that looks a little nicer. And let's bring this up just a little. That's pretty good. And we'll expand it. Make it black. All right, we'll have that as an engrave. And we'll grab our entire layer and move it up. Okay, so now we have 3 different ornaments. So for right now, let's go ahead and save these. Save as, and I'll put it in my ornament folder here. Ornament tutorial. Okay, great. So now we have all 3 ornaments that we're going to be looking at in terms of the template to cut them out. So now we want to look at what are we going to put in them. Okay, so while we're in Illustrator, let's go ahead and create a new template. And let's import something that would be kind of neat or cool to have as a keepsake. So we'll go to File, Place, and we'll go back to our ornament folder here where I have some stuff. So let's take a look at, well, let's do a drawing. Okay, so this is a drawing that my little girl did many years ago. So we'll stick it out here. A nice bird. Okay, and what do we want to do? So we want to digitize this and basically stick it on one of the ornaments to be etched. So we'll go to Image Trace, and we'll see how it turns out. Now, in our case, this turns out pretty good. Now, if you had a drawing from your child that had colors and stuff, there may be some difficulty tweaking. You'll just have to check it out. The best thing to do, though, is to do this stuff, originally. Let's say you had original artwork. So, for example, if you had your you wanted to give a gift to your grandparents, well, have your child draw a picture for your grandparents or for their grandparents. And probably the best thing to do would be to use like a black Sharpie, maybe a medium tip Sharpie, to draw it. That way we know Illustrator is not going to have a problem digitizing it. But in any case, this worked out well. We're just going to focus on this bird right here. So we've got the digitized artworks. What we want to do is expand it. Then we want to get our direct selection tool and click off of it for a moment. Then go over here and click on the white. We want to hit type, excuse me, select, same, stroke and weight, click the delete button on your keyboard, and that did not work. So let's try this again. Select, object, fill in stroke, delete. Okay, and we have now gotten rid of our background, so now we can highlight this extraneous stuff and get rid of it. Alright, we can see there are little, if we highlight over here, you can see some of the little dots that are there that are almost imperceptible to the eye. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So we'll go over here and grab that. Oh, there must be something over here. Hold on. Yep. Alright, so we've got this guy. Let's go ahead and select him. No, still another one. I just want the bird. I don't want the dots. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that bird. And then I'm going to go back to my ornament over here. And I'm going to lock all these. I'm going to go to ornament number 1, unlock it, highlight it, and Control V. I'm going to paste my little bird. And I'm going to bring my bird over here. We'll zoom in. We'll place it in here, size it the way we want. Okay. And we have our nice little bird. Maybe we want to center it up a little bit. Alright, looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and lock that. We have our first ornament done. Let's move on to our second ornament. So what's something else that we could do? Well, let's go back to our bird and let's just go ahead and delete it off. Now we have a clean artboard to work from again. Okay, so let's go to File, Place. Okay, so let's place an object. In this case, we're going to place my son and daughter on the artboard here. Now this ornament will take just a little bit of time because what we're going to do is focus on creating a silhouette. Alright, so I'm going to trace, in this instance, I'm going to trace my daughter. Zoom in, she's making her pretty face here. I'm not good at the pen tool, so I'm going to use the paintbrush. So double click on your paintbrush. I like to make sure it's between accurate and this middle position. If it's accurate, me using a mouse, it's going to be too shaky. If I was using a tablet, perhaps I would use all the way to the left on accurate. But I use this middle ground here. It'll kind of make up for some of my mistakes, my shakiness. And let's go over here and create a new layer. Highlight that new layer. And we want to make sure that we've got the right paintbrush. Now I had already created this. If you double click, you can, mine by default was a 5-point and I made it a 1-point. So make it a 1-point. And then basically what you're going to want to do is to go in here and trace. Now I'm going to go ahead and make this a different color so I can see a little better. Yeah, so we'll just spend the time tracing through here. So once I get down to here, I just use my scroll wheel, kind of go down and keep it going. All right, now we'll speed through this process. Okay, so at this point, we have our person outlined. Now you might want to go in here if you want. You can go ahead and it's probably a good idea is to grab your paintbrush and add at least a little hole here or there. And these shoelaces. Really, when you're doing these kind of things, silhouettes, I mean, the ideal is to have, fun shapes. Like this. Actually, is there? And that's a hole there. I couldn't even tell. All right, so that'll be great. You want some space. You want some dynamic shapes. Otherwise, it's just a big blob. So we'll come through here. Like those sound effects. All right, we'll bring that through. There we go. Okay, so now once we have this, what I like to do at least is to go through, because if you look at all this, a lot of little paths. I want to start connecting them all together. So I basically grab the direct selection tool and bring these things together a little bit. And then what I'll do is get this the selection tool and go to, let's see, where is it? Gotta find out where it is here. Basically, I want to join these joints together. Yeah, path, join. Okay, now they're all one path. And we've, basically brought two into one, so we want to go do the whole thing here. And that way we just have one shape, not a series of, lines. So let's see what goes next. All right, so we'll go down here to this area. And again, we'll speed this up in just a moment, but basically go to your direct select tool, grab it, kind of bring it where you want it. There we go. Go back to your regular selection here, hold shift and click it. So now both are selected. Then go object, path, join. Let's click it again. It didn't work, so I got to click it here, now go object, path, join. Okay. And we'll make our way down. Grab the direct selection tool. I want to bring these little ends together. Actually, what you'll want to do, and I should have done this before, it hasn't had an effect until now. If you see when I try to bring this down, it jumps, like a huge jump. We don't want that. And the reason it's doing it is because I always have snap to grid on. So take snap to grid off for the moment. Now you should be able to grab it and bring it over here so it matches up with the other one. Click off of it and go back to your regular selection tool, or you can just click V on your keyboard. Click, object, path, join, which is Control J, and then we'll come back down to here, grab our direct selection tool, which is A, bring it over, okay, click off of it, hit regular selection, Control J. All right, then we move on and keep doing it. So we'll go ahead and speed it up now. Okay, now that we have our shape, we can go ahead and click on the larger shape here, and let's go ahead and give it a fill. And no stroke. Go ahead and get rid of this picture in the background so we can focus a little more here. Now what we're going to want to do is to click on all the paths and go to our path finder and click divide. Now we should be able to go in here and select these smaller paths. And let's do it with the direct selection tool. And it didn't work. Alright, so obviously I don't know what I'm doing here at the moment. I've had a memory lapse, so we're going to go to undo clearing all those. I'll undo the division. And go back to our Pathfinder. And hit minus front. Okay, that was it. Sorry about that, guys and gals. All right, so there we go. We have our shape. So what we want to do now is just and I keep messing things up, don't I? Let's go ahead and bring this up here. Select, we'll copy it, come back to our ornament. Now we'll go back and focus on ornament number 2. We'll paste. And we'll put her where she needs to be. Okay, which is right there, looks pretty good. Okay, so she'll be engraved. So this inner circle will be engraved, and my daughter will be engraved. And if we want to add a little bit more flair to it, we can go back and pull open her signature, copy it, bring it back over, and paste it. And for example, maybe we would want to put it underneath her, like so. And of course, compositionally, you can figure out where you want to place these things. Maybe you'd want it on the side, but that looks pretty good. So in the case of her name here, we're not going to want it to cut it out. We're going to want it to engrave. So we'll do no outline, and then we'll give it a black solid. So there we go. And yeah, that's it. So that's our second ornament. The final ornament we're going to want to make is a wooden ornament, an engraving. Now, I envisioned all these other two ornaments as acrylic, clear acrylic ornaments. They're pretty easy to make that way. When you deal with engravings on clear acrylic, it gets more difficult. So this one I envision wood, and we're going to want to go to Photoshop to get started. So let's open up Photoshop, find a picture that you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use a picture of my son in army fatigues. And let's go to File, New, and go to Print. And we're going to make this 4.25, which is the width. Now, if you remember, and you should have seen it in a note that I'll put in post-production, I had thought I was making all along a 4x4 square, but I had accidentally moved it a quarter inch to the right and made it a little bigger. So the width is 4.25 and the height is 4. If you followed along and did it right, in this case you will be putting 4 and 4. Anyway, let's create that. There we go. Now I'm going to bring this image over and drop it into here. Alternatively, I could have just made the 4 1/4 by 4 and then placed the image, which I didn't do. Sorry. Anyway, here it is. And we'll bring this down and kind of get it squared away as to where we will want it. And that looks like a decent composition. We've got rid of this guy over here, the offender who's photo bombing. And we'll want to brighten this up just a little bit. So let's go to our levels here, levels, and kind of brighten him up. And we may want to do a little curves adjustment also. Let's see, or maybe not. Yeah, that might be all right. All right, we'll try that. Okay, so now that we have this, let's double click on this background and get rid of it. All right, let's duplicate the first layer. So now we have a second layer, and we want to bring this second layer to color dodge. Then we want to click the adjustment layer button and do saturation, bring the saturation all the way over. So now we have a grayscale image. And at this point, we want to go back to our second layer on a PC, hit Control I, which will invert everything. And then we'll go to Filter and Blur, Gaussian Blur. And then we want to fool around with this, so it kind of looks like almost like a pencil drawing in some way. Okay, and then we'll want to go up and do another curves adjustment and kind of crush the blacks here that are in here. Pretty heavy, but I think that'll look pretty decent on the edge. Okay, and at this point, let's see, I'm trying to think here. We know that on the top of the ornament, there's going to be the little hanger part here. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so we want to go ahead and export this. I'm going to export it. And hit save. And we'll go back to Illustrator, and we're going to go in here and place our image and resize it. To basically fit in this area. Let's go ahead and drop the opacity so we can see what we're dealing with here. Looks like it's off just by a bit here. So what you might want to do is just a bit. And remember, make sure snap to grid is off when you're doing this, or it'll snap to the next little grid point. Here, I'm going to see if this makes a difference when I bring it down, if it's going to... Yeah, it really didn't do too much. Sometimes you have to worry. If you were to go, do it too much, you would, squash his face and put him distorted. But just that little bit, you're really not going to make a difference. So I'm doing it. All right, that looks pretty decent. Let's go ahead and bring the opacity back up. Yeah, this is where I messed up in my head. So probably if I could go back over, and I'm not going to do it right now, but I would probably get like a white paintbrush and maybe kind of give a slight vignette here so I wouldn't get this. Or, the stark line. It would all kind of blend in. Or what I would probably do is when I was originally making this ornament, I wouldn't make this area here. I would just create the first square and then do the modify the path and contract the path and make the second, but just make it all the way around, so it's a small square all the way around, and it wouldn't have this loop area. So then the border would tuck up against the image all the way around and not here. But it is what it is. It's okay for the purpose of the tutorial. But anyway, if we look back, here are our 3 ornaments, and to me they all look pretty decent. Now the last thing we're going to want to do, though, before we move this into the Glowforge, is we want to grab each one of these. So let's go ahead and unlock them all. I'm going to grab my image of the bird here. All right, so there's my bird. I'm going to rasterize him, or her. And then I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and I'm going to reflect it vertically. Okay? I want, or at least I like, you don't have to do this, but I like it when the image is engraved on the back of the plastic. And so you see the proper representation, when you flip the ornament around. I know I'm not making any sense on that, but basically I don't want the rough engraving on the top of the plastic. I want it underneath the acrylic. Okay, so we'll do the same thing to my daughter here. I'll highlight both of these or select both of those. Object, rasterize, okay, and then I'll go to Object, Transform, Reflect, okay. Now, this one is going to be on wood, so it doesn't have to flip. It's fine the way it is. So we'll go to File, Save As, and we want to save this as an SVG. Hit save. Make sure that all these things are unselected and the embed is selected. Hit OK. And that's it. So now we'll move on over to the Glowforge interface. Okay, once we're in the Glowforge interface, the first thing we're going to want to do is upload our SVG. Now it'll take a little bit of time to process, so we'll speed through this. The next thing we're going to do is go to our unknown materials and put medium clear acrylic, because that's what we're going to burn first, or laser first. We'll move our wooden ornament over to the side, and then basically put all our settings to proofgrade after we, of course, ignore the wooden ornament. So we're going to have some high quality etching, some scoring, and a cut. Then we'll move our ornaments over here to the bottom right. And it's always a good idea afterward to kind of double check, make sure you did the right thing. As you'll see later in the tutorial, I mess up on this. But anyway, that's about it. We hit print. It'll scan the material. Of course, it'll take a very long time to process, which we'll speed through. And once it's ready, we'll hit the Glowforge button, and then we're off. Okay, the acrylic's complete. Now let's turn our attention to the wooden ornament. So you'll see right now I'm ignoring a lot of things, and I ended up making a mistake. I ignored my etch. It's the second one down. But in the end, it turned out actually okay. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is I'm resizing the ornament just so I would get a quicker burn. It was originally 4 inches, but now it's about 3. So I move the acrylics over to the right off the work area. I'll go here And I'm going to pick Medium Walnut just because I want to be able to quickly use the Proofgrade settings for the etching and the scoring, cutting, that kind of stuff. So I'll go to the engrave. I'm going to do an HD photo, and then I'm going to go to the focus height and put in 0.25 because this is a 1/4 inch piece of, I believe it's birch. And then I'll go to the Proofgrade cut, and I'm going to want to change the height on it to 0.25, and also the speed. I'm going to want to change the speed to about 145, and that looks like it's probably about right. So we'll go ahead and look over things and then press the print button. Now, of course, it's going to take a while to process and scan the material and get things ready, but once it's ready, we'll press the Glowforge button and we're off. See you on the flip side. Okay, so the first thing we want to do right now is to weed this acrylic ornament, or these 2 acrylic ornaments. Now, one thing I do, as soon as the acrylic ornaments come off, I go ahead and rinse them under water. And generally, what I do, that gets the the kind of the fuzzy acrylic leftover haze stuff. I don't know what you call it, but basically the little acrylic snow. It gets all that off, but also it wets the paper, makes it a little easier to come off. I didn't do that here in terms of pulling the paper off while it's wet. That probably would have helped. Anyway, so I'm going to speed this up. After we weed the ornament, what we're going to want to do is clean the ornament. So I use Novus Plastic Clean and Shine. It's got a number 1 on the bottle. It seems to work okay. Just have to, polish it with a, well, I use a t-shirt. I guess you could do a lint-free cloth. So I spray a little on the front and the back. Make sure not to get any overspray anywhere. If you do that, especially if you get it on your floor, you're likely to bust your bum. I do speak from experience on that. It leaves some sort of residue that's pretty slick. So anyway, I put it on there and just keep polishing, looking up at the light to see if I see any smudges, and eventually it goes away. I'll go ahead and speed up through this process. Alright, the acrylic ornaments are completed, so now it's time to turn our attention to the wood ornament. At this time I'm going to put safety gloves on to protect my hands from the denatured alcohol. I should have used them when I used the plastic cleaner, but I did not, so make sure you do that if you care about your hands and what may or may not happen if it gets on there. Alright, so I pour the denatured alcohol into a cup, in this case coffee cup, and then I get a toothbrush and I just scrub around the ornament on top and on the sides to get rid of the smoky residue. So let's go ahead and speed this up. Now that we've gotten most of the smoke residue off with the denatured alcohol, we want to use a cloth and wipe around the edges and get the remaining smoke residue off. Alright, I'll go ahead one more time and speed this up. Alright, and we're done. I apologize for this tutorial growing a little long in the tooth, but hopefully you found it useful. If you choose to make these ornaments, I have no doubt the person who gets them will love them. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.